In Activity 6, Aphids, students examine aphids and put them on the plants in their foam cup planters. They draw conclusions about aphid food preferences, then observe and record changes in aphid populations over time. You will need the following materials from the kit: Activity Sheet 6, magnifiers, foam cups, 1 ounce plastic cups, pipe cleaners, tray with seedlings from Activity 2, container of aphids, aphid population data chart, 10-ounce containers, lids with holes for 10-ounce containers, fava bean seeds, potting soil, masking tape, and aphid transparency. You will also need to provide felt tip markers, paper towels, large spoons, and tap water. To prepare for Session 1, make a copy of Activity Sheet 6 for each student. Cut leaves from the class's bean plants and place one in a 10-ounce container, 1 container per team. Transfer 5 to 10 aphids onto each of the containers by placing the containers under the plant that the aphids are on and tapping the plant gently. Place a lid on each container. For each team, fill a 10-ounce container with potting soil and half fill another 10-ounce container with tap water. Set up 2 distribution stations, each with a large spoon and a bag of potting soil. To begin Session 1, explain that aphids are common green insects that live on plants. Give a copy of Activity Sheet 6 to each student and distribute 2 containers of aphids and 2 magnifiers to each team of 4. Allow students time to observe their aphids. Then have students write a description of the aphids on their activity sheets. Show the aphid graphic and point out the legs, head, eyes, antenna, and needle-like mouth of the aphid. Have students look for these body parts on a live aphid and label the illustration on their activity sheets. Next, have the class compare and contrast the aphids with the other animals they have studied. Students may say that aphids have 6 legs and live on land like fruit flies and ants, but they do not have wings, nor do they dig tunnels. They are larger and have fewer legs than the brine shrimp, which live in water. Next, have teams retrieve their plants from Activity 2 and give each team 4 pipe cleaners. Next, demonstrate how to move an aphid onto a bean plant by placing a pipe cleaner beside an aphid in the container and gently roll the pipe cleaner until the aphid clings to it. Then, move the pipe cleaner next to the intersection of a leaf and the stem of the bean plant and roll it again gently until the aphid climbs onto the bean plant. Instruct students to transfer all their aphids onto their bean plants, dividing them among the 3 foam cups. Allow students time to observe the aphids' behavior on the bean plants with the magnifiers. Then ask, what do the aphids do when they are moved to another plant? Students will have observed that they slowly crawl along the surface of the plants. Point out their mouth parts and explain that they insert their needle-like mouths into the leaves and stems and suck out the plant juices. Ask students, how could we find out which of the plants in your cups the aphids like to eat? If students do not think of it, suggest they move the aphids to the other plants and observe what happens. Then tell students to find the population chart on the activity sheet and fill in today's date just below day 0. Have students record the total population of aphids on their activity sheets. Post the aphid population data chart and record today's date below day 0 at the head of the second column. Write the team's names in the first column and the team's current population of aphids in the second column. Then, add up the total for the class and write this number beside total in the day 0 column of the chart. Explain that teams will be observing the aphids and updating the chart to see if the classroom population of aphids changes. Next, distribute 2 fava bean seeds, a foam cup, a strip of masking tape, a marker, a 1-ounce plastic cup, a container of water, and a container of potting soil to each team. Have each team plant 2 new bean seeds in the new foam cup and label the cup with the word beans and today's date. Inform students that these new plants will provide a fresh food source for the aphids after the other plant wilts. Finally, tell teams to add the newly planted foam cup to the other 3 on their tray and return the tray to its spot in the classroom. Return the materials to the kit and collect the activity sheets for use in Session 2. To conclude Session 1, every other day for about a week, have teams count the total number of aphids in their plant cups and record team totals on their activity sheets. Write the totals for each observation day on the classroom aphid population data chart and add them up to get the class total. To prepare for Session 2, each student will need his or her copy of Activity Sheet 6. Each team of 4 will need 2 magnifiers, 2 pipe cleaners, and their tray of plants from Session 1. To begin Session 2, return to students their copies of Activity Sheet 6 and distribute the materials. Ask students, what changes do you see in the population of aphids? Students should have found more and more aphids each time they took a population count. Students are likely to suggest that they are having babies. Explain that when a plant or animal reproduces, it is creating more young members of its own kind. Next, ask students, has anyone noticed a white aphid body on the plant? These should be common, and most students should have seen them. Guide students to understand that the aphid, like all insects, has a stiff outer layer called an exoskeleton that covers its body and gives it its shape. Go on to explain that insects molt or shed their exoskeletons when they have grown too big for them. Inform students that what looks like white aphid bodies on the plants are the empty exoskeletons that aphids have outgrown and left behind. Their soft skins will harden into a new, firm exoskeleton, which after another period of growth, they will again outgrow and shed. Next, ask students, which plants have you found that your aphids prefer to live on? Students will have found that their aphids prefer to live on the bean plants, but will also spend some time on the pea plants. Then ask, what is happening to the bean plants that have a lot of aphids on them? Students may have noticed that the bean plants are starting to wilt. Finally, distribute a fava bean to each team and tell them to plant it beside an old bean plant that has begun to wilt. Every 2 to 3 days for the next 2 weeks, have students count the population of aphids in their plant cups and write team totals on their activity sheets and on the aphid population data chart. Once a week, have students plant a new bean seed in one of the plant cups. To conclude Session 2, return the plants to their spot in the classroom. Collect the magnifiers and pipe cleaners and return them to the kit. For science background, reinforcement activities, curriculum connections, and information about the Delta Science Reader, please consult your DSM Teacher's Guide.